Movie soundtracks. If you're someone that's into movies like I am, then you know how important a movie soundtrack is. It's one of many moving parts that come together to evoke a certain feeling, create a cohesive experience. I mean, if you've ever tried watching a horror movie without all of the horror ambiance, it is a whole different ordeal. I've done a video like this with video game soundtracks, and you guys seem to like it, and I enjoyed making it. So as someone that watches a lot of movies, I thought I'd do the same thing with movie soundtracks and just kind of give you some of my personal favorites. Anywho, enough yapping. These are some movie soundtracks that go way too hard. Okay, before I get into the first one and get a bunch of comments correcting me, I feel like I gotta clarify the difference between a soundtrack and a score. Now, a lot of people don't know what score means, and that wouldn't look as good on a YouTube title. So in case you don't know, technically speaking, a soundtrack is a collection of music that's used for a movie, while a score is usually instrumental music that's made specifically for the movie. And I know that I'm gonna mix match the words throughout, but some of these will be soundtracks and some will be scores. So with that in mind, the first one I'm gonna be talking about is a score. I think this was the first time in my life that I was aware while watching a movie just how much the soundtrack was elevating the whole thing. This entire movie is basically following a young Adam Sandler frantically running around, stressed out of his mind, and then also running into the love of his life and being stressed out about that. A lot of stress in this movie, but not a typical heart-pounding, uncut gems type of stress. It's more of a whimsical, there's something a little off about this guy, and everything is already stressful kind of stress.
What the fuck is your problem?
It really helps accentuate the times in the movie where he feels more grounded, with the soundtrack slowing down into these beautiful, almost Disney-esque symphonies. And it makes the romance aspects of this film even more impactful when you can audibly hear a change in his brain chemistry when he's around this woman. And the contrast between those two sounds in this score is something I haven't heard a lot in other films. Going from stuff like this to this. Unrelated, but Adam Sandler is such a good actor when he wants to be. Why does he use his power so sparingly? Why? This soundtrack is made by Daft Punk. Don't know what else I really gotta say about that. Look, every now and then something will happen that makes me think maybe there is a purpose in life. One was being alive when Daft Punk was around and making music, and another was being alive when they did a score for a Tron movie. Now, I'm not saying that this movie isn't a good movie without the soundtrack, but it is the staple definition of a film that is made 10 times better by it. Very few artists will make a movie soundtrack that is just as good as everything else in their discography, and Daft Punk did it. I would even go as far as to say that, you know, looking back on their whole discography, it might be one of their best. The combo of these grand symphonic compositions interwoven with that signature Daft Punk electronic goodness, it's seriously impressive. It honestly takes over the movie so much that you could see it as a 2-hour music video with some interludes of people talking and crap. Please come back, Daft Punk. This one feels like the equivalent of mentioning Skyrim in my video game soundtrack video. It's a very obvious pick, but for good reason. The atmosphere and design of these movies is really what laid the groundwork for most medieval fantasy, including a lot of the Elder Scrolls games, which I am a huge fan of, and is without a doubt the pinnacle of this style. I really don't think it gets much better. I think most people know the track The Shire from the very beginning of the first movie, which does such a good job at making you feel like a little hobbit that definitely doesn't want to go on 3 long movies worth of adventures. Then there's the more epic sounding stuff that brings this crazy sense of scale and risk to the more suspenseful parts of the film, which now listening back to, I'm realizing just how much Skyrim copied from this soundtrack. But hey, can you blame them? This shit is good.
So I said I'm a snowball running
I'm being serious, guys. I know you guys probably think I'm joking. This is serious. This is real. This one may be a sign of my age, because I don't really know how people younger than me feel about Shrek and the soundtracks to those movies, but this has gotta be one of the best uses of popular songs in a movie. Now, yes, this isn't the first one, which has the iconic All Star by Smash Mouth, which single-handedly kind of cemented that song as a meme, but it has so many classics and was such a great way of exposing me, a small child, to some absolute classics like Changes, that Funky Town. Don't even get me started on Livin' La Vida Loca. They did not need to go this hard with the soundtrack, but they did, and in turn have made this into a classic movie. I honest to God do not think Shrek 2 would be anywhere near the same without this soundtrack. And I'm ashamed to say that for a majority of my life, I honestly thought some of those songs were Shrek originals. If you've seen any Wes Anderson movie before, say what you will about his visual style, but the scores to his films are always so perfect. My favorite movie of his by far is The Life Aquatic, partially because of the really great, funny, and emotional performances from the main cast, but also because of the fantastic soundtrack. There's two parts to this one. There's the instrumentals, which are goofy and great, and Portuguese David Bowie covers. First off, the instrumentals, somewhat familiar if you've seen other Wes Anderson movies, in the tone of being very childlike and whimsical. It takes some scenes that are otherwise pretty serious and turns them into what it feels like to be playing with action figures as a kid. These are mostly used during the more action-oriented scenes of the movie, while the emotional scenes are, for the most part, accompanied by covers of David Bowie songs, and these are actually performed in the movie by one of the characters, which gives it this especially intimate feeling, which comes across really well, despite it being performed entirely in Portuguese. In fact, it being in another language gives it this really special feeling that kind of reminds you how universal emotions can be, with just how well these songs can portray a certain feeling, even when you don't understand the lyrics at all. And what is with David Bowie songs specifically always being sang by characters in movies? Is he the one constant in every universe?
I don't take showers and I don't brush my teeth. That's all I do with.
Okay, hear me out, guys. This is a movie about digging holes. Best song to have as the theme to a movie about digging holes? Dig It.
Dig it up, dig it. Dig it up,
I gotta be honest, my entire life leading up to making this video and looking into this stuff, I thought this was a popular actual song outside of this movie. Turns out that that is an original song made for the movie Holes. There's even vocals from the main cast in there. I don't know how I didn't catch that, but that's pretty cool. But that song is not the only great thing in this soundtrack. There's some Shaggy in there.
For my peoples who be working on the future, though they know they gotta struggle.
Some Kev Mo for the sad moments.
Time kept going.
With this movie coming out in 2003, it honestly might have been the first time I was exposed to any kind of hip-hop. So thank you, Holes. You broke my heart, but you did give 4-year-old me some great music. This is by far the most recent film on here, which I was super intrigued to see ever since hearing that it was a tennis movie with a score from Trent Reznor of 9 Inch Nails, which has kind of become the new Daft Punk of movie scores, especially since he's also doing the score for the new Tron movie. But it's just kind of a seal of quality that the soundtrack is going to be great. And there's a lot of stuff that made this film great. The acting was fantastic across the board. The cinematography was unique and exciting. And then on top of that, it has a soundtrack that sounds like this. This is how you get someone interested in a sports movie. I haven't personally been into that many sports-centered movies, so when I heard about Challengers, I didn't really have super high hopes of enjoying it personally. But this movie proved to me that I definitely can enjoy a sports movie, so I am no longer genre-phobic to sports movies. Okay, they can go pretty crazy. I did this with the game video, so I figured I gotta do it again. I asked you guys for some of your favorite movie soundtracks, so here are some good ones that I didn't go over. Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse, I was really close to including the first movie soundtrack in here, but I felt like I was including too many kids movies, and this one is just kind of a given. I feel like this is without a doubt the best soundtrack of a modern animated movie. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. I can't even remember a better opening track than Sunflower, and the whole hip-hop approach to it was so perfect to give this movie its own personality personality. I saw the TV glow. Dude, I still haven't seen this movie. I have been meaning to watch this movie since it's been in theaters, but I have heard the soundtrack and I've come close to buying it on vinyl, even though I haven't seen the movie. This soundtrack is an indie kid's wet dream. Don't know if it counts, but Bo Burnham's Inside, nah, it doesn't count. I guess it's a soundtrack? I don't know. This is a weird one. I mean, I agree that it's great, but I don't even know if I would consider this a movie. I see it as more of like an art performance piece. Interstellar's soundtrack. This is another one I was thinking about, but didn't include it in my list. But I honestly think that the soundtrack to Interstellar might be as iconic as the Lord of the Rings soundtrack. I don't know if that's controversial to say, but I think it's that good. I think it does for sci-fi movies what Lord of the Rings did for fantasy. Those were some of my favorite film soundtracks. Let me know in the comments what yours is. Thanks for watching. If you liked hearing me yap about movies, and check out my second channel, Blustre, where I do videos on films. Okay, I only have one video there right now, but I'm working on stuff. I'm recording one right after this. If you like the video, feel free to leave a like, and if y'all really like the video,
hit the subscribe button.
Unless you're already subscribed, which in that case, here's your complimentary Blustre point. Use it wisely. Bye.